Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining this evening. I'm Shantanu Kumar, and over the next 1 hour, I would introduce Power BI to you. To get you started, plan for today, it's not going to be a detailed workshop on data visualization. It's going to be just introduction to what is data visualization and how Power BI can help you do so. To understand what Power BI can actually do, there has to be a comprehensive workshop. We usually spend 12 to 15 hours on a comprehensive workshop. And we have shared the link in the chat window in the description box for you to review the detailed course on data visualization using Power BI. That's the plan. The detailed course is a 12-hour course. We get into right from extract, transform, load application within Power BI to data modeling, to visualization and sharing options. But that is for you to figure out and explore. Please check out the description box. That's where you would get the link for the Data Visualization Practitioner Workshop. It has all the details that you would need to learn more about the 12-hour workshop. Today, the plan is to introduce what Power BI can do. So it's going to be more of a demonstration, and I'm going to pick up a topic that is pretty dear to all of us, cricket. If we want to create a visualization for one of our cricketers using the data that is publicly available, 10, 15 years ago, it would require a lot of programming and we would have to spend hours and hours to build it. Today, using Power BI, we can do it in maybe less than a couple of hours. And that's what I want to demonstrate to you. So let's jump right in. Let me show you one of the visualization on Power BI. So what we are doing is we have Virat Kohli's data available on espncricinfo.com. It is publicly available data. And we would be connecting to this publicly available data and build a visualization that ESPN Cricinfo has done too. So if you're on Virat Kohli's webpage on ESPN Cricinfo, and if you go to stats, you get to see his batting stats. And we would be connecting to these batting stats data and build our own visualization. And the visualization would look a lot like this. So this is something that I'd already built. So I wanted to demonstrate to you that this is very easy to do. Not a lot of programming required, all drag and drop, point and click. So let's get you started. So let me first start with what is Power BI, a quick introduction. So Power BI is a business intelligence application by Microsoft. Now, it builds on some of the shortcomings of Excel, and it has a lot of the same functionality that Excel can do and a lot more. So if you look at Power BI, it has the following features built into it. One is an extract, transform, load application. Some of you may know of this as Power Query. So ETL stands for extract, transform, load. It also has a data modeling application built into it, which is Power Pivot. This is to connect to dimension and fact tables. It has a visualization canvas so that you can have all the graphs and plots that you want. It has some inbuilt analytics options. So some inbuilt, some you can use an external visual. And third, you can also integrate with R or Python. It also has some AI guidance based analytics. And the last, of course, is the collaboration options, where you can generate a PowerPoint, PDF, or create a web link for review, and many more. A lot of the Power BI features are easy to work with for somebody who has worked on Excel, because when it comes to Power Query, Power Pivot, Power BI picks up the same kind of tools that you had in Excel and improved upon it. So Power Query will help you fetch data from multiple sources. Clean the data, and load it for your analysis. Now, this eliminates the need for you to clean the data every time you get the data. So it eliminates that need. You are able to do the task once, and every time all you have to do is just click refresh. So can somebody tell me which are some popular competitors of Power BI? So use the message box and help me with an answer here. Who are the popular competitors of Power BI? Use the message box, share your responses. Now, to use the message box, you will have to subscribe. So click on subscribe and then you can. Yes, one of you already mentioned Tableau. Can you think of any other? Any other that you can think of? ClickSense, Google Looker, and Data Studio. There are quite a few. There are many more. Tableau probably has the largest market share. And arguably the best app. Of course, it comes at a significant cost. ClickSense, a little dated nowadays. This is an interesting space. Still a work in progress, I would say, but catching up quickly. Now, why Power BI then? That's a big discussion. First, Power BI Desktop, which is the builder app, is free. Second reason is, if you have used Excel, the learning curve is really short. You're able to pick up Power BI like that if you've worked on Excel in the past, because the interface and how it all functions is so simple and so similar to Excel that you're able to pick it up really quick. So all you have to do is you have to go to Power BI on Microsoft's website, scroll down, and you have a free download available. Now, keep this in mind. This is Power BI Desktop. So Power BI has two primary elements. One is Power BI Desktop, which is the builder app. The other is Power BI Service. The other is Power BI Service. And I'm going to write that down for you. So two primary applications, Power BI Desktop and Power BI Service. So Power BI Service is paid, though I would say it's quite reasonable. You get started at $9.99 per month, and Power BI Desktop is free. As far as I recollect, it was $9.99 unless they have changed it recently. Power BI Desktop is free. Now, of course, Power BI Service also has an enterprise version. It also has a premium version. So enterprise version is when you want specific security options. And premium version has AI options built in. So when you get an opportunity, you can take a look at the pricing. So you have Power BI Premium, which has some of these AI options built in. Now, if you just want the collaboration options and you want to just share across different platforms, then the $9.99 is good to go. Otherwise, you can use the $20 version. This is the service. Please keep in mind, Power BI Desktop is free. And majority of the users that we work with, they're just using Power BI Desktop because it does almost everything that Power BI Pro does, other than sharing insights through a web service. Now, of course, Power BI Premium has some of these AI self-service options, so that's a little different. So one of the major reasons why we recommend, or I recommend Power BI to somebody who has already used Excel, because the ETL application, the data modeling application, is the same as Excel. And let's work on this so that we understand this. So just allow me a moment. Now, if you look at this application, the objective of Microsoft is to keep it a no-code application. So they're working a lot to ensure that you don't have to learn any form of coding. They want to limit it to drag and drop, point and click. Of course, you have options to write functions. Of course, you have options to write queries. But the objective is that keep it as much as point and click, drag and drop. So let's work on the Virat Kohli data. I will open up a new page. So I'll close this down. And this is how Power BI Desktop looks. So I will repeat, this is the desktop application. This is the builder application. And this is how Power BI, when you open Power BI, this is what you see. You may see a pop-up banner. When you close the pop-up banner, this is what you see. Now, what is the first thing we would have to do if we have to build that visual for Virat Kohli? So let's go to Virat Kohli's data here. So this is the data set. If we have to build that visual for Virat Kohli, what is the first thing we would have to do? So in the message box, please let me know what is it that we would have to do. First thing for us to do to get started on Virat Kohli's data. Correct. We will connect to the data source. Excellent. So this is how simple it is. I'll just copy the link, go to Power BI, and what you see, where you see the mouse cursor on the screen, that's where I have the option to fetch the data. So here I have get data, and I can connect to quite a few data sources. For Virat Kohli's case, I would have to connect to a web page. Now, before I click here, I'm just going to click on more so that I can show you that there are hundreds of data connectors that we can use. You have Excel, you have text CSV, XML, folder, PDF, SharePoint folder. There are numerous other data sources that you can connect to, even a SharePoint online list, and so on. So Salesforce objects, Salesforce reports. I have to connect to a website, so I'm just going to click on web. Click connect. And paste the link. That's it. That's all I'm doing. Click OK. Now, what Power BI does now is it goes to the website, ESPN Cricinfo, and it scrapes that data. So it's looking for the tables on that page, and it's going to show you all the tables that are available on that web page. So this is the navigator window. It is right now fetching that data. It may take a little while, especially if it's a web page. If it's a local file, it's a lot faster. And I think it's almost there. So we'll give it a few more seconds. In the meanwhile, let me know in the message box how many of you use Power BI already. And now I have the list of tables. So if you observe, it's HTML tables, and I can just click on it and see it in the preview window, whether this is the data I want. This is not the data I want. This is not the data I want. I don't want this data either. I want innings by innings list. I want this data. So I'm going to click here, innings by innings list. So this is the data I want. Now, if the data is clean, all I have to do is load the data. So if the data is clean, all I have to do is load the data. But if the data is not clean, then I will have to click on transform. Now, when I click on transform, it will open the Power Query editor for me to clean the data. So please let me know in the message box that you are able to locate the load and the transform buttons on my screen. So now it's going to become a little technical, so I'm going to go very slow. So load, and you also have transform. Confirm in the message box, please. Now, when I click on transform, it takes me to the query editor. It takes me to the query editor. This is where I can clean the data, shape it to the way I want. I can clean the data and shape it to the way I want. Now, what is the benefit of this query editor? Whatever actions I perform, they get recorded. And the next time Virat Kohli plays another match, all I have to do is click refresh, and the same cleaning actions will be performed on the new rows of data that are generated. So I'm going to repeat this. What's the benefit of this query editor? All the cleaning steps that I will perform now will get recorded. So look at the right-hand side where you see applied steps. So let me rename the query, change it to Virat Kohli. I have applied steps on the right-hand side. I would like to clean this data. Now, before I start cleaning, just look at the first column. Can I compute average for the first column? Can I compute average for the first column with the way the data is? Let me know in the message box. And if I can't compute average, what kind of cleaning should I perform for the first column? So what cleaning actions should I perform? Let me know in the message box. Remove TNDB, remove text. Okay, very good. So yes, if I want to compute average, this has to be numeric column. I have a special character here for where you see an asterisk, and you would also see that I have text in some of these rows. So what I need to do is I need to first get rid of this asterisk. Now this asterisk indicates that he was not out. Now the good thing is I have a column which indicates that he was not out. So there is no loss of information. There is no loss of information because the asterisk indicates that he was not out. I already have a column which tells us that. So the first thing I would do is get rid of this asterisk. Simple action, right click on the column, click on replace values. Which value should I replace? I will get rid of the asterisk with nothing. Now, before I do that, please take a look at the applied steps pane on the right-hand side. Just follow the mouse cursor. The moment I click OK, a new step will get added. The moment I click OK, a new step will get added. Now, this is recording every user action. So next time when Virat plays another match, a new row of data gets generated. The same action will be performed on that new row of data. So I've replaced values. Now I have text variables. So what I would do is I will change the data type of runs to a whole number. Another step got added. All the text variables have become error. I will replace the errors with null, which means it's as good as a blank. Now what we have done is, it was previously a text column. We have changed it to a numeric column. We have replaced the asterisk. We also got rid of the errors, and now it is null. All the user actions are recorded on the right-hand side. So everybody, please use the message box to confirm that you're able to locate the user actions on the right-hand side. So from here on, I'm going to go very, very slow so that you're able to see what I do. Now, we also have to clean the following columns. Sorry. These are all supposed to be numeric, so we should be cleaning these columns. So I'll do a quick clean. So these are 4 columns that I see. I will replace the hyphen with null. Just allow me a moment. So I'll replace the hyphen with null, and I will change the data type to a whole number. So now I have the first column is numeric, and the remaining columns are numeric too. I should ideally fix strike rate. I'm just ignoring that for now. So when I scroll to the right for column ABC, that's a blank column. I'll just remove the column. All the user actions that I have performed, if you observe, they have been recorded. Now let's look at the column that is highlighted. What is wrong with this column and what kind of cleaning action is required? What is wrong with this column and what kind of cleaning action is required? Use the message box to let me know, and I'll show you an interesting feature of Power BI. So I have to remove the V and the space, isn't it? Now there is an exciting function in Power BI, which is for new users. You don't even have to remove it. You simply have to tell the computer what is the good format for this data. And Power BI will write the function. So it's like reverse engineering a function. It is like reverse engineering a function. Take a look at the screen. This is a very, very exciting feature of Power BI. So I'm going to click on Add Column. So look at the top of the screen, left-hand side, Add Column. Column from examples. From selection. And now what the computer is asking me, or Power BI is asking me, what is a good format? So I'm going to provide an example. I'll say all I want is Sri Lanka. And similarly, I want it for other countries. Similarly, I want it for other countries. So the moment I press enter, a function has been generated. So take a look at the screen where the mouse cursor is. A function has been generated. And now I can just click OK. This column is good to go. I'm going to remove this column. Move this column back here. Rename it. And the last column is the match number. I'm going to rename that too. Now, what you should see here is that every single action I performed has been recorded. In reality, it is writing lines of code. Let me show you the lines of code. These are the lines of code that it auto-generated. And if you carefully observe right from here, this is when we remove the asterisk with nothing. This is when we change the data type to an integer. This is when we replace the error values with null. These are when we replace the error values with null and also changed the data type to integer, and so on. Similarly, this one is where we use text after delimiter. So we didn't have to write these lines of code. Power BI did that automatically. Of course, you can review it when you click on the advanced editor option. Now, once we have cleaned the data, and I haven't cleaned the entire data because it's a 1 hour demonstration. But let me ask you this. If I have to do this for Rohit Sharma, what do you think I will have to do? Do I have to repeat all of these steps for Rohit Sharma? It is mQuery. Do I have to repeat all of these steps for Rohit Sharma? And while you are working on that, let me just go to ESPN Quick Info. Type Rohit Sharma. So what do you think I would have to do for Rohit Sharma? Let me know your thoughts. Let me go to Rohit Sharma's page. And this is what I have to do. All I have to do is right click on Virat Kohli, duplicate. I have another query now of Virat Kohli. So I've duplicated Virat Kohli's query. And on the right-hand side, if you observe, I have the source option. So when I click on the cog icon or the gear icon, I get the URL for Virat Kohli. I'm just going to replace this with Rohit Sharma's URL. That's it. All I had to do was duplicate. And that's it. And this is Rohit Sharma's data. This is Virat Kohli's data. Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli. So all you had to do was right-click, duplicate. That's it. That's how easy it is. Now, next time Virat plays the match, a new row will get generated on ESPN Cricinfo website. We shouldn't be worried about it because when we click on refresh, all of these cleaning steps will also get performed again. So now we have cleaned the data reasonably well. We will now go to the visualization pane. So how do I do that? Left-hand side top corner, I have an option to close and apply. So when I close and apply, it loads the data to the visualization pane. And the data has been loaded for Virat and for Rohit Sharma. There you go. Now we can start looking at what visual we would use. So please review the right-hand side far corner. This is where I have the two worksheets. If I want to take a quick look at the data, I can click on the data option on the left-hand side. This is where I can take a quick preview of the data. So this is Rohit Sharma's data, 8-1-29-0-39. And this is Virat Kohli's data. Virat Kohli had a better start to his career in sense of 10-9-91, 82-68. Rohit Sharma did not have the best start to his career. As you can see, a lot of single-digit numbers, but not bad though. Now, this is the data tab on the left-hand side. Just above that, you have the report tab. When I click on the report tab, I go to the visualization pane. Please confirm that you're able to locate the report tab and the data tab. Left-hand side, far corner. And if you're unable to comment in the message box, you will have to subscribe first. Wait for 1 minute after subscribing, and then you will be able to comment in the chat window or the message box. Okay. Now, this data tab is where you can see the data. And this is the report tab. This is the visualization pane. And let's say I have Virat Kohli. And I'm looking at Virat Kohli's runs. And let me plot Virat Kohli's batting average. Now, this may not be the correct batting average because a lot of you as cricket enthusiasts would know that in average, we don't count the innings where the batsman was not out. But just because it's a quick demonstration, I would show you without correcting for that. So this is just the column average. So I can plot a line chart. And it's all drag and drop. So there is a visualization pane. There is a fields pane. When I click on the line chart in the visualization pane, a gray icon or a gray overlay appears. I'll delete this. I'll show you again. On the right-hand side far corner, you have the field list. You have Virat Kohli, you have Rohit Sharma. If you have more cricketers, then you have more. Next to the fields, you have the visualization pane. We call this the visualization pane. Here you have a bunch of visuals. Now, these are not the only visuals you can use. You have an option to import more visuals. And I'll just show you that there is a huge list of visuals that you can import. The one that you see on the screen in the visualization pane are the default ones. So one thing that we use very often is the word cloud. So you can use the word cloud. There are some very interesting options for waterfall. So if you are in finance and if you use a lot of these waterfall charts, then you have some interesting waterfall options. And let's say box plot. So you have a bunch of box plot options and a few map options that you can also explore. Okay. Now this is right here. You have to get more visuals. What you see on the screen are the default visuals. So let me make more space here. You would also see that you have the R script and the Python visual. That means you can import R and Python visuals here. It would need some configuration, but that we would discuss during the data visualization workshop, not now. So I'm just going to use the line chart right here. Now there are a bunch of ways to do it. I'm just going to click on the line chart here. Increase the size of the line chart and just drag and drop runs. So as of now, you just see one value because that's the overall average that it is plotting. I will also add the date. So if you observe, all I had to do was drag and drop. So let me just delete this again so that I can do it for you again on the screen. I click on the line chart, increase the size. And maybe I will keep some space for a slicer. I can click, I have a couple of options. I can drag and drop. Otherwise, I can just check it here. Both would work. So either I check it here, I can drag and drop, or I can drag and drop here. So Power BI has ensured that you can interact in different ways. And then I will drag and drop the start date. And this is the line chart. Now, of course, you would like to see the values. So we have a bunch of formatting options. Now, before I go further, just let me know in the message box that you were able to follow the drag and drop to create the line chart until here. Then I'll show you the formatting options. Let me know in the message box, please. All right. So now follow the mouse cursor on the screen. We are right now in the build visual option. For formatting the visual, we will go to the format your visual option. Now, when I go to format your visual option, the first thing I would like that each of these points should be a nice little circle. So I'll switch on the markers. Then I will switch on the data labels. I can make the data labels a little bigger. And let me also make it bold. Virat Kohli's 2022 has not been so great for him. And I guess we can see that. I hope he's able to do a lot better later in the year and of course next year. I guess the World Cup is next year or is it later this year? Somebody help me with that in the message box too. I think there is a World Cup this year too. I may be wrong. All right, so this is the line chart and all your build visual options are in the first tab. Your formatting visual options are right here. If you want to change the color, you want it to be some other color, you can. Though I don't like this color, this is horrible. Let me go with the color that we already had. And any other formatting options that you prefer. So if you want to change something about the lines, you want the lines to be orange, sure, go ahead, knock yourself out. And I'll leave that to you. Now, what I would do is I'll also add a slicer at the bottom. So there is a slicer, if you see, I'm just hovering the mouse cursor on that. So I would use that slicer. So I have to first click away from this visual. And I would add a slicer and I'll drag and drop the date. And this is a nice little slider slicer. All I did was, I'll do this again so that you can follow this. Blank space, click on the slicer, drag and drop, start date. And that's it. And I'll make it look a little better. So the values are too tiny. We can't see the values. I'm making the values a little bigger. And maybe we'll stick to the theme. Make it bold. And even the slider, we can change the color. Let it be this. And maybe we just don't need the start date. Just this slicer is good enough. And there you go. So this is interactive. And there you go. Now, if you also want to add first innings versus second innings, we can add that also as a slicer. So let me add one more slicer. And here what I can do is I can add innings. So now this does not look good. I'll change the look and feel of this. So I'll go here, I'll go to effects. We can change the color if we want to. I'm just thinking, title, let us switch on the title. Let me call it innings. So that is better. Change it to horizontal so that I have tabs. Let me go here. And what I can do is let me get rid of this. This, now it looks a lot better. There we go. This is nice. So you have a bunch of options. You can change the slicer from horizontal to vertical if you want to. Do you want a header? You don't want a header? How do you want the values to be? You want to change some colors, you can. So all formatting options that you want to play with. So you have those options here. So quite a few interesting options to play with. So let me click on it and see. Yes. His second innings only. So let's get rid of the first. Let's go to and this is without it. All right, so let's go to another page. So this is the first page, and this is probably, we can call it career. I can create another page. If you see the bottom of the screen, left-hand side, bottom corner, I'll just add one more page. So this is the first page. And we have mentioned career, first innings, second innings, slice it by the innings. You want to change the date range, you can take a look at all of that, and so on. Now, here what we can do is we may want to look at his batting average by country. Very simple. All we have to do is drag and drop. So he has runs here, and I just drag and drop opposition. Once again, we can have the slices here too. And very neat option here. Take a look. So I have the batting averages here. I would like the numbers. So go to format your visual. I will switch on the data labels. Let me make it look nice. I'll move the data labels inside the bar. So inside end, make it a little larger. So that's pretty. I can also have the first innings, second innings here. I'll sync it too. And this is his batting average across different countries. Now, there's another interesting feature that I want to show you that. If you want to add some additional information that your user should be able to see when they hover on it, you can add it to tooltips. So take a look. When I hover on it right now, it does not show me anything other than the average. But let's say I want to also mention how many matches somebody played. So that's where I can drag and drop match here, change it to count of match number. And now I have the data, how many. And if you want a more interesting visual, we can use a map. So there are quite a few options within the map. And let me just start with this one. So here I can have runs in the bubble. I can have opposition and location. And this is not bad. And I have a bunch of options here. So I can make it more of a heat map. If I don't want a heat map, I can just have bubbles. And of course, bubbles, I can set the size differently. So you have a bunch of options that you can play with, different visuals and so on. We'll cover them during the data visualization course. Another visual, probably, this is all continuous data. Let me show you a visual which is not continuous data. You may be interested in his dismissals, and we can use a heat map for the dismissals. So one of the things that we can do is we can use a heat map, or we can start with the pie chart first, and then we'll move to a heat map. So the same data, so one pie, one heat. I'll show you both. The same information in two different charts. And we can have dismissals. And we can have dismissals. Just allow me a moment. Count. Sorry. All right, so the same data in a pie chart and in a heat map. And if we want to add the values here, we can. We can switch on the data labels, make it slightly larger. So that we can see them. And it's the same information here if you carefully observe. Now, let me show you something very interesting. Now, there are many features, and we will discuss what to use when during the data visualization course. But there is a fascinating feature in Power BI. So let me ask you this question. Would you like a feature where you don't have to plot the visual? All you have to do is ask the application to plot it for you. So this is a quick trivia for everyone. Does this feature exist in Power BI? Let me know in the message box. That's a tree map, Praveen. That's a tree map. Or did I say heat map? I'm sorry. So that's a tree map, not a heat map. Sorry. We were doing the heat map for the graphs. So the map that we used previously, we did for that. All right, coming back to this. Does this feature already exist? All right, let's take a look. Let me add a new page. So we have an interesting option known as Q&A. We have an interesting option here known as Q&A. All I have to do is tell the computer, average runs Virat Kohli by opposition in a column chart. Sorry. And this is an extremely neat feature. This is the Q&A feature in Power BI. Now, if I want, what I can also do is count of Virat Kohli's one day. What is the name? Match number. By dismissal in tree map or in donut. It is NLP. So Praveen, yes, it is NLP. So if you actually go here, it is using natural language processing, and you can add more synonyms. So you can tell the computer, for example, right now the computer recognizes BF as BF. I can tell the computer it is balls faced. It recognizes innings as INN. I can tell the computer innings. Opposition, I can always talk about team, let's say. Position. Now, what is the benefit that we have? The benefit is that when I ask the question now using balls faced, so let's say sum of balls faced, it will recognize it. You can also teach Q&A for questions that it would not understand. So if it does not understand some question, you can explain. And that gets recorded. If you have the enterprise version, when people ask questions, you can even review their questions and fix misunderstanding. Now, when users also interact with your application or with your visuals, you can give them a list of suggested questions. So that makes it a lot easier for them to navigate through the list of questions and get the answers for those questions. And this is the Q&A visual. So let me just go back to where is my... So here, of course, in your maps, you have the bubble option. And you also have the heat map option. And I'm sorry, I misspoke. That was the tree map and not the heat map. So this one is the heat map. So instead of the bubbles, what I can do is I can make it a nice little heat map. This is all drag and drop. This is Q&A. Now, if you like the visual, you can add the visual to the page. You even have that as an option. So turn this Q&A result into a standard visual. All right, so let's go to the last thing that I want to show you before we conclude for today. Which year did Virat Kohli perform the best? So review this visual. Let me know which year did Virat Kohli perform the best. Let me know in the message box. Now, wouldn't you be interested to know what changed in 2018 versus 2017? There is an interesting feature in Power BI where I can go to this specific point, right-click on it, ask the computer to explain the increase. Now, this runs an AI algorithm in the background, which does slicing and dicing. And it tells us that Virat Kohli's batting average significantly changed due to South Africa and change in South Africa and West Indies batting average, in sense, his batting average against West Indies and South Africa. Now, if this visual is meaningful, you have to tell the computer with an upvote. So this positive feedback helps the computer understand that this is meaningful analysis. But if it is not meaningful, then you have to tell the computer it is not meaningful. So let's say, like, this is not meaningful. Strike rate versus average. So I'll tell the computer it is not meaningful. The computer would ask me, why do you think this is not meaningful? Is the insight not important? Is it poor choice of fields? The description is unclear. Poor choice of visual. I'll simply say insight isn't important. Or I can also say poor choice of fields. This feedback system helps you if you generate these reports every month. And you have to analyze whenever there is an increase or whenever there is a decrease. And you have to share with your stakeholders which factors have driven a certain change in your output. So I'll show you the option again. Go to any of these points, right click. If it's an increase, it would say explain this increase. If it's a decrease and you right click on it, it will say explain the decrease. Now, it also has another very interesting feature, and we just don't have enough time to go through all features. You have the key influencers also, so it will help you analyze a certain output by a bunch of variables, and it can help you identify which variables are the key influencers. You also have a decomposition tree, which is a very interesting option where you can drill down from a high level to a low level by looking at different stages. And the smart narrative is an auto-generated summary for a certain visual. Now, this auto-generated summary can also be customized, but once again, we would explore those during the data visualization workshop. Now, once you create these visuals, what you can actually do is you can publish them to the Power BI service. And let me show you how the Power BI service looks. So this is how the Power BI service would look. There would be a workspace. And let's say this is the report. Now this is on the web. So this is right out there on the cloud. If you want to share, you have a bunch of options. You can share the link, you can email, you can share it on Teams, or you can share a PowerPoint. There is something interesting. The PowerPoint can be an embedded PowerPoint. What it means is it would embed the live data. It will connect to the data source. So it will be an interactive PowerPoint. Now, of course, you can generate a PDF, but why would you generate a PDF when you can embed live data? So you have a bunch of options, and I'll leave you to explore that on your own. And yes, of course, you can also create a mobile layout. And you do have that option here available for you to create a mobile layout, which is very common nowadays. If you work in MIS, they would say at least the executive summary should be mobile compatible so that if somebody is scrolling down on their mobiles, they're able to see the reports. Now, there are just too many features and too many options for us to discuss within this workshop. Just for you to understand, the first step always is ETL, which is extract, transform, load. We use Power Query for it. Some of you were asking me this question in the message box, so I'm going to answer that. It is mQuery language. But if you have used SQL in the past, it is very similar. The second step is data modeling. We didn't really do data modeling today. We use Power Pivot for data modeling. And what we use here are known as DAX functions. The third step, of course, is the report pane, which is your visualization canvas. This is where you create all your visuals. Here, you can also import custom visuals. If you are a developer, you can create your own too. And then you have the fourth step is share/collaborate. Now, in this, you have another step that you want to, which is analytics. I didn't touch that today, but there are some very interesting analytical options. I'll show you just one before we conclude today. Let's say I want to forecast Virat Kohli's batting average for 2023. I have a forecast option available. It is available in the third tab of the visualization pane where you see analysis, and you see a forecast value here of 35.57. The same analysis option also has a bunch of other features like anomaly detection. So I'll just mention that. So some of these would be forecast, anomaly detection, etc. Now, the real magic actually happens here. This is pretty easy. So the easiest section of Power BI is the visualization. This is probably the most challenging section, followed by where we create measures. So second most challenging section. So what Power Query does here for you is, the objective is fetch and clean data. Here, the objective is create measures. Now, the good news for all of you would be that Microsoft is focusing on making it as much point and click, drag and drop, with very little need to code or write functions. So some of the common functions are already there, and I'll show you that, though we would not get the time to do this. So you have these quick measures which are already available. Like if you want average per category, variance per category, maximum, minimum, filtered value, difference from filtered value, time intelligence, running totals, some basic mathematical options, and so on. So some of these quick measures are already built in, which is just drag and drop. And even if you have to write functions, the functions here, similar to Excel, because Excel also uses DAX functions. So DAX is data analysis expression. All right, so what's the next step? Review the Power BI workshop that we conduct. That's for 12 to 14 hours. So 12 hours minimum, it may get extended to 14 hours. And we would spend more time on ETL, which is Power Query, and DAX, which is creating functions. So this will be novice to intermediate level. All right, so that's more or less the demonstration. I will be happy to take your questions now. So we will spend another 15 minutes taking your questions. So whatever questions you have, go ahead and let me know in the message box. And let us also know what kind of videos you would like to watch, and we will start producing content based on your needs. So yes, go ahead. Let me know your questions in the chat or in the message box, and I'll answer those for you.